Welcome back to PodX. This is me, Ayush Mujithia, your host. Our guest for today is Ayush Elavadi. Ayush Elavadi is a content strategist, multimedia producer, and television presenter. Previously, he was an anchor and special correspondent of Bloomberg Quint and was a part of the channel's launch team. He has also worked at CNBC TV 18 and Star Network. He has worked as a storyteller in television, radio, and digital with a strong focus in technology, business, and sports. He also contributed to the popular Netflix series Bad Boy Billionaires India. He hosts a podcast titled Let's Tech About It, revolving around technology. He's also the editor and host of the TV show Tech Today. He's someone who studied law but went on to build a name for himself in the content world. And I'm really excited to cover his journey on this episode. And I'm really excited to have you, Ayush, because now I can finally say the line, Ayush interviews Ayush. So how do you feel being here?
Hi, Ayush. My name's Ayush, and I'm glad to be here. You have done quite a fascinating thing with this podcast, and I feel like PodX is something, if I had the resources and willpower and poise that Ayush of PodX had when I was 18, I think I would be on another level of hustle 10 years later.
Wow. I mean, you're someone who I look forward to because you're literally where I want to be 10 years later. And also you're Ayush. So yeah. So
we both host a podcast and are content creators.
Correct. That's also true. Okay. So I wanted to start off with your journey about law. So how did it start? How did you go from studying law for 5 years to the content world?
So, Ayush, the journey was more of a slow and grueling process, because I believe that a lot of people said this actually, and this is a problem in India. There are a lot of people, well-wishers, elders, tell you what you ought to be doing, or they tell you what you're good at. Now, I didn't have any compulsion, but a lot of people in the legal fraternity had heard me speak. And public speaking happened to me a lot earlier when I was at school, when I was in college. Debates, impromptu, stuff like that, dramatics. I loved acting. And over the years, when someone saw me doing that, a bunch of lawyers and senior lawyers said, hey, they told my mom and dad he should become a lawyer. And for me, I thought that might be amazing. But honestly, and now that you're asking me this, I'm going into cogitation or nostalgia mode. And I really think that I should never have done it. So that's my first mistake. When everyone talks about this nice, lovely introduction that you gave me, my first mistake, which was a fortuitous mistake, or a mistake that got me on the right path, was essentially taking up law. So I'll tell you what law did for me and what it didn't do for me, and how that made me decide what I want to do today. I was always a more expressive person, so I enjoyed creating content or doing stuff on stage and fun stuff like that. When I got to law school, I thought it would be like Suits. I thought it would be like Boston Legal. It was nothing like that. There was no Harvey Specter. There was no Rachel Zane. And it was quite ordinary, to be honest. And the only difference was my lead up to law school, I was at Jai Hind in the 11th and 12th. And I was a science geeky nerd. The level of geek that you need to be a computer student. I studied computer science. I used to sit in a hardware class, soldering ICs. I mean, today when people talk about the new Apple A15, A14 chip on the iPhones, I remember me taking 20-year-old ICs and soldering them. And that really got me thinking, saying, I know this is geeky. I wish I could present this information to you, but I can't come back home and tell my mom and dad this is what I did, because they'll just think I'm weird. But I enjoyed doing that. And I thought it was important to tell that story. And being a storyteller comes in my family, right? My dad was a storyteller. It's something that has been there. And I've seen it as a kid. When I was 5 years old, 6 years old, I've gone to TV studios, radio studios. So I felt very at home. It's like taking a wild animal in their natural habitat. But then law sort of deviated from that plan. And I kept the tech thing going. And you'll say, oh, Ayush, you should have become a computer engineer or a tech company guy. And I said, yeah, that's what I thought I should have. But back in the day, it wasn't as cool. The Mark Zuckerbergs and the Jeff Bezoses were not as popular as they are today. And Elon Musk didn't even exist to the same extent. There was no Tesla the way we know it. So I should have taken that plunge, but I enjoyed it. And during my time at law school, I started, so I don't know what the right word is, moonlighting or a very Batman sort of existence, doing something in the day at law school and the night working as a as a content creator, as a media guy, going to studios and doing voiceovers, coming and doing a radio show, asking my dad if I could do something, and earning a little bit of pocket money in the making. And I didn't know that that side hustle would eventually become the foundation for a career where one day I will come on PodX and tell you my story. That was something I didn't know about at all. And a lot of people ask me this question when there are master classes as well. It's so strange, you're 18 now, but the things that you're doing are building blocks to what is to come in the years to come, right? So keep doing what you're doing. I'm a big fan of what you're doing, like I'm saying, and I'll elaborate on it further. But everything that I learned in law school and outside the college really helped me become the guy I am today in the content creation world.
Yeah, I think when we look back, it's like Steve Jobs said it, only when you look back, you can connect those dots and really understand where your path was leading you to. And I have a similar story. I would love to share that if you're fine with it.
Please.
So basically, I am in the 12th grade right now, and I took science. And that's something which I realized that I don't want to continue in life. So it's like I understand science, I understand physics and chemistry, I can score in those subjects, but it's not something that I completely enjoy. So that's when I realized that I want to do something more commerce related or something. So post 12th, I'm actually planning on doing that. And, like you said about building blocks, this is a very funny story. Okay. So I've not spoken about this on the internet earlier. I actually applied to this different school when I was in a school called Shiksha Niketan, which was only till 4th grade. After 4th, you have to shift to another school. So I applied to this school in the 5th grade called Don Bosco. Now, what happens in Don Bosco is they have reservation of seats for Christian students. And after all those seats are filled up, if there are places left, then the other religion students are accepted. So Don Bosco is an all-boys school, and almost all my classmates, all the boys in my class were going there. So I was excited to go there and all that stuff. It was a Goa board school, and I applied over there. Now, I didn't get in because I'm not a Christian or a Catholic student. So I felt really bad at that time. And I instead went and opted for an ICSE school called Sharda Mandir. And you won't believe it, at that time, I felt really bad because I was not with the boys back then. But I would say a lot of what I've learned in Sharda Mandir is the foundation of where I am today, because it's not just what you learn over there, it's the people who you meet over there, how you interact with them, the conversations that you have with them. And I feel being in I'm not putting down other boards, but I feel being in an ISC school, I got a lot more exposure in comparison to what I would have gotten in a Goa board school. And now, looking back, I feel that it was the best decision and the best thing that happened to me that I didn't get into Don Bosco.
That's true. See, at different levels of our lives, I'll tell you this, Ayush, this is uncanny that we have the same name and we have a similar content game with aspirations and an entrepreneurial mindset. But it's strange. There was an interesting scientist doing a talk, and I was watching it, and he said, there's so much division and racism in the world. And, we in India itself, we pull people down if they're not from the same city, if they don't look a particular way. And it's just so unfortunate. But if you zoom out of all of this and you just look at planet Earth, every human being, because we claim to be these very evolved animals in the animal kingdom, and I don't know if we are, a lot of animals perhaps are a lot smarter than us. Strangely enough, 99.9%, and this could be more decimal points, 99.999, whatever, of you, me, and everyone watching this podcast is the same. We are chemically, biologically the same if you look at us as pieces in the universe. But even then, for that 0.0111 whatever percent, we create these differences, right? So I think we should all jointly look at these learnings that we all have and help each other out. Because largely you could be 15, you could be 20, you could be 30, 40, but we all have something to learn from each other. And even when someone has a baby, they learn so much about themselves in raising that baby, right? That's just the circle of life. So there's a lot of interesting things, and I'm glad you shared your story as well.
But okay, I'm going this a bit off, but you spoke about learning from other people. So I wanted to ask you, what are some things that so in India, basically, even I had this mindset earlier, is you can't really learn from someone who's younger than you, which is changing. I was challenged by that because I've met so many people who are younger than I, and they are so much more ahead and smarter than I. And that's when I started realizing that it's not true. But there's a stigma and a stereotype that in India that you can't learn from someone who's younger than you. So what are some things that you learn from people who are younger than you?
I'm learning the hustle from you, but over years, it's not just things that I learned, Ayush, from people younger than me. I learned something about human beings with exactly this trait that you're talking about. A lot of my bosses over the years, or people who taught me, or people who mentored me, everyone had good intentions, but the ones who had the approach where they decided that to deal with a guy like me, who's very headstrong and is very particular and compulsive and obsessive sometimes about how he's into creating his content, or, I want that logo showing there, I want this book showing here, I want this light flowing here. These are all perfection with the kind of content we make. The people who taught me the most, and it doesn't reflect well on me, are the people who are willing to unlearn and then learn again. And that's where technology comes in, because technology taught you that if you were going to sit on a perch and say, I am the king of this medium, I am the king of the jungle, technology is going to come in and you might be 40 years old thinking you're the boss, and a 20-year-old is going to come in and teach you a lesson. And that's exactly what's happening in the content world. That's exactly what's happening in the startup world. There are 20-somethings, 19-year-olds who are hiring 40-year-olds as old men in their businesses, but they are the founders. They're setting up billion-dollar companies. So the lesson that the world, and if you want to go spiritual, is another path altogether, but the lesson you learn is unlearn always and learn. And I've said this before, and I've discussed this with you as well. Always, it sounds cliched, but always be curious. Because the minute in this world, and it's been happening since time immemorial, I'm pretty sure in the 1500s, 1600s, you and I didn't exist then, but people who were coming up with inventions, right? The guys who discovered the biggest things that have become commonplace now, gravity, time, the concept of time, so many things over different civilizations have all stemmed from the fact that someone asked a question and there wasn't an answer. Every startup with more than $1 billion valuation today anywhere in the world has tried to answer a question which wasn't answered effectively until he did or she did. So that's one thing I learned, that it doesn't matter age. You should be age agnostic, because the best coder could be a 17-year-old. The most talented guy could be a 60-year-old. So, and this, I'll tell you this. I actually worked at an organization which is very popular called the Quint, Bloomberg Quint. And, one of our senior most, the founders, was someone who'd done so much in the media. And every time I used to go in for a meeting with him, or he used to have a chat with me, I felt like I was talking to my best friend. And he's such a senior person, he's seen it all. But in that conversation, I realized there's so much to learn about humility and intellect. Because I am a nobody, but if you're willing to learn from me, that means I am definitely going to learn in the process, and maybe you will as well, because I come with fresh ideas. And then fortunately, I've always met people ever since, because I've been geared into that. I'm telling you, you asked me for people younger. I'm telling you, I was the younger one that people learned from. People younger as well. Now, when I have like the Gen Z creators coming on my show this week, or in previous episodes, or even working on Hotstar, on Star Sports, so many people younger than me would tell me, hey, you know what? After the show, I'd only get them along. The seniors give their feedback anyways. The juniors would be scared. So you'll sit them all down in the lobby of the hotel saying, hey, did you watch the game today? Or what was it like? Did you see my part? Oh, really? What didn't you like? Oh, I hated the way you did your hair. Fair enough. Or you seemed a little distracted. Is everything okay? See, because people build on their skill sets, and we are naturally inclined to perceive a few things. Like, you don't have anyone in the media, I'm guessing, in your family, but you've cracked how to do a successful podcast, or you're hustling constantly. That comes from within you. I can't change that. You decided to leave science, and you must have had that conversation with your parents, but you decided that. So you naturally are unique, and so am I. And in those experiences that we share, perhaps we can get some sort of a solution for problems that you have and I have, and we all have problems.
Wow, I think that was me. Can I be heard?
Have, right? Yes.
Oh, I think my internet dropped. Sorry. Yeah.
No stress.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think that was an amazing explanation. I really loved it, especially the part where you spoke about learning from experiences, because that is something which I truly believe in. That's something which that's the reason why I started this podcast, was to learn from other people's experiences. And I wanted to ask you about this. What was your experience at hosting ISL, being a part of the Russian World Cup where you vlogged your way through, and also your experience at Bloomberg Quint?
Fantastic. So that's basically cramming 4 years of my life in one question. But essentially, Ayush, it was all stemming from the same logic, which is what I want to talk to you about. In this podcast, you've had people who are very sharp business minds and stuff like that. Now, there's one way of looking at business traditionally. And all these things that you asked me till the point that I am at today is when people ask me to come in for workshops and mentor people, they put me in this category of either public speaking or creating a personal brand. And the entrepreneurial mindset in the current creator economy, which is what all of us are in, whether you like it or not, is to be entrepreneurial. So you are building your brand. You want more eyeballs. You want more subscribers. You want people to share. You want people to relate. These are words as a content strategist that we work with brands on, that we work with the biggest media organizations on. So all of us are in that place. Now, I've taken up a job. So I do because I love what I do. And I'm at a place which has given me this great platform to do things that I love. But the years that you were talking about before this all went into creating my personal brand. Why will an organization want to hire me? That's because they know of the brand Ayush Ellawadhi and not necessarily the introduction that you read out earlier. Those are small dots in the whole scheme of things. The largest circle is Ayush Ellawadhi. And that's the personal brand that you and all of us need to build on, right? Your podcast could be something you do. Maybe you play a sport. Maybe you are a great public speaker. Maybe you create reels, whatever it is. And some of those really smart 18, 19-year-olds on my show are doing just that. They understand the commerce of Instagram, perhaps heading to a subscription model. They've already wired, and I understood this from my conversations with them, that they've wired themselves in a way where they know, boss, if this goes down the subscriptions path, this is how we will make money. This is the conversation we'll have with our parents. This is exactly the kind of content strategy that will change and how it will change. See, you take these things for granted, but someone chilling and saying, Are, my papa sorted me out is in a very different zone. There's nothing wrong with that. And maybe you can build on that. But then this hustler mindset is something that really impresses me, because these are the ones who I learn the most from. There's something to learn from everyone. But personally, for me, I get excited by the prospect of someone who is growing and who knows where they are headed. And you don't need to know how to get there. You just need to have that vision or goal. And then you just need to keep every day throwing that dart, tossing that dart. Might not hit the bullseye. The day it hits the bullseye, you're there. So it's a constant process. It's a constant churn. Nothing happens overnight. The day it happens, if there's 365 days, Ayush, in a year, and on each of those days, metaphorically, I make you throw a dart onto a dartboard. And for 200 days, you go back to your pillow and you cry and you say, I never get the bullseye. I never get the bullseye. All of a sudden, on the 321st day, you get the bullseye. The internet goes crazy. They make an NFT out of you. You become a millionaire. We'll talk about NFTs and the metaverse, but that's what happens. And you become a viral sensation and you come on my show. I'm giving you a hypothetical concept. Everyone says, oh, Ayush became a superstar on November 21st. And now he doesn't take our calls. But that's not true. No one saw what happened from Jan 1st to November 21st. That was your hustle. That was your churn. And that really fascinates me. And those stories are the ones I bring on my show. Those stories are the ones I like to do in a podcast as well. So coming back very quickly to your questions, Star Sports, great place. I am a football fan. I love Goa. I've spent most of my life in Mumbai, Delhi, and Goa. and for different reasons. Delhi because of family, Mumbai because this is where I'm from, and Goa because every Bombay person at some point has watched Dil Chahta Hai and they all want to be in Goa. But Goa is very liberating. I'm a very beach sort of a person and I love football, and I have a lot of local friends there. And for me, when I got an opportunity to go to places in this country, just imagine a job as a football fan who's watched football since he was 9 years old or 10 years old, right? If you watch football since you were 9, 10, 11 years old and have supported a team since then, you're given a job, no matter how enriching it is. But you have to fly to 10 cities in this country, many of them you've never visited before, and you have to just watch football and talk about it. It is the job I dreamed of as a kid. So to get that opportunity was immense. The only thing was that when you're tied down in that contract, I was taken away for 6 months from my other work. And then now the way the pandemic shaped up, you have to be in a bubble. It becomes tough to take up other projects. And then I had to take up a job. So that experience was something I'll take to my grave. It was just amazing. Goa itself gave me the best experiences in that space. And then Russia was at a number 2, vlogging through there. Should I tell you why I went to Russia in the first place?
Yes, please. I've heard the story, but for the audience that doesn't know.
I went to Russia on a whim. I quit my job and I said, I'm done with being in an organization. I'm joining the creator economy. And I said, I'm going to take my Android phone on a selfie stick with a Jugaadu mic and I will shoot it, edit it. And whatever I do, basically, I just didn't want rules. I wanted to break the rules. If I want to dance with locals, I dance with locals. If I want to use the washroom and vlog while doing it, I do it. There are no rules for me. That was my crazy approach. And for that, I need to quit a very good, high-paying job at one of the world's bigger organizations. And I said, I'm done. And they said, why? I said, I'm gone. And I booked a one-way ticket and I started shooting. Then a leading digital publication approached me saying, can you make these vlogs for us? And I realized that, hey, I've quit on a whim and it's great to fund your trip yourself. So then when they bought my vlogs and made it a series from Russia with Brav, but my rules were the same. Obviously, I'd be a little more responsible. But I said, whatever I'm doing in this 10-part series, I am doing. This is me, because the reason is the official broadcaster was not doing a good enough job for football fans. And football fans in India have always been deprived of international football because our coverage has not been good enough. And I say this with a heavy heart. So I thought, okay, let's give you viewers the fourth dimension. What is the life of an Indian football fan from his eyes if he goes to Russia? And that became a really fun series, which was watched by sports broadcasters, by employers after that. I got so many projects after that. And then later on, I think that was a fantastic experience. Bloomberg Quint was great to set up a digital first brand, taught me a lot about my own brand, taught me a lot about where I am today again, like I said. And it was a great place to be. We had a show where I did crazy things like deliver dabbas with dabbawalas, drive around with Mika Hakkinen, cook with master chefs, jump on and off trains to Goa, the fastest train in India. We did all sorts of crazy things. So those experiences, again, taught you about spontaneity, about thinking on your feet, and also about how you engage the audience. On television, Ayush, what we do is we sit out there and then perhaps just keep talking to a camera. And we never really engage with Ayush, the viewer or the subscriber, which is how digital changes things. Because in digital, you have to engage. The comments coming on this video, you're going to message me when they come, and I will come and personally, the day I have some time, reply to any queries people have, because that's the beauty of digital. So that's what it taught you. And we're doing it now. We're doing it on Tech Today. We're doing it on some of my other shows. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah, I think those were my learnings. And in the process, I also ended up doing a small Netflix stint, which was kind of fun to do as well.
Okay, I want to add to this a lot of it. Firstly, it's really interesting. Secondly, I'll go point by point. So the first point was which you spoke about finding people who hustle. That's something which I related as I don't know if it's wrong or right, or I feel everyone has a different mindset, but I find ambitious people really, really attractive. Because when you go to them, they know what they want to do. They have a goal. They just don't want to be like, oh, I just want to like sit down. I don't know what to do with my life. Or I just want to party or just chill and all that stuff. So personally, for me, even a lot of my friends, they are very ambitious. I know they know what they want to do. Some of them even know how they want to do. Some of them, like I have a friend who's studying law, just like you, and she's like been preparing for CLAT for the last 1.5 years. There's this friend who's studying medical. There's a friend who is preparing to get into an Ivy League, and all of them know where they want to be and all. So I find it very amazing to be surrounded by such people, and I think that's why I find it attractive, because it keeps me motivated to constantly keep on going ahead. Second part, which I wanted to say, which was throwing about darts. I think even Gary Vee says a similar thing, which is you need to constantly take on shots every day, and one day it will hit. Either you're becoming better by practice, or one of your shots will hit one day. And thirdly, being spontaneous. Yeah, that's one thing which I feel is very, very important, that skill, because you need to be able to take decisions on the spot. There's some changes that happen in the plan. You need to be able to change the plans or go according to the flow of how it's going.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's why I really loved your answer. It was just amazing and covering it up all. But another part which I wanted to ask you is, you've always shown yourself very confident. I've seen some of your previous interviews, your podcast, even your show. How do you think one builds up confidence? You've been on radio since the age of 9, I think, the first time when you were doing audio dubbing. So
yes,
how did that 9-year-old Ayush build up that confidence?
Wow, that's a fantastic question, Ayush, because honestly, it didn't come that easy. I had a dad, and I have a dad who builds that confidence in you. If you ever watch those Discovery Channel shows and those travel shows where they show the lions and the lionesses and how they are with their cubs. And that's how I just got lucky, because I was tossed into the deep end. And I keep saying this, that no one has like this armor of confidence that we all put on television, radio, or on YouTube. It takes time. A lot of people after graduation, they come on, I have a few trainees and interns who've worked with me over the years, and they build that confidence. And then now the cheat code is stuff like what you're doing, or the reels or Instagram lives, and you get comfortable in front of the camera, right? But for me, because I got exposed to it so early, it's not like, again, like I told you, it wasn't an overnight thing that I became this guy who you guys enjoy watching. Because when I was younger, and I still am, I'm very shy. I'm not socially awkward. I love meeting people. I love chatting with people. But often I am very shy. And sometimes when I shut down, I just shut down completely. I can sit down with my PlayStation or Xbox and just sit in the corner. And I don't want to chat with anyone. When I'm listening to music, I want to be in my own space. I also, by the way, used to train in Western music, and that really helped me, because when the mic came on and I had to sing a song, I started singing when I was 6 or 7 years old. And earlier there was stage fright, saying, what if everyone in a boys' school, I was in an ICSE school, what if they make fun of me? Right? What if I sound like crap? But then I won my first competition in the 2nd grade, and I said, wow, people aren't making fun of me. And, everyone's calling you this superstar. So I got really emboldened and confident at that point. And then when I used to go with my dad to dubbing studios and recording studios and TV shows, people were scared to tell me that I wasn't good enough, I think, because I was my dad's son. But my dad would always tell me I was not doing a good job. And he'd tell me that constructively. But when you're a kid, sometimes it's a little hard. And that, fortunately, that worked for me, because if you're hearing it from someone who has your best interests, if you're working at an organization, a boss may or may not have your best interests. You're not his kid, right? So maybe he's telling you that, but it could put you down. But you know that a parent or someone like your close friend usually has your best interests. And that really taught me a lot. And then I got more opportunities. I failed. And I always thought, like, till today, I would never, I never liked my own family seeing my content. Because I feel, as a kid, that that what if they critically analyze it? And I have this problem. I tell my producers and I tell everyone, I say, wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up. And I was, doing it till 3 a.m. last night on the show. And even after you've wrapped it up, if the family says, oh, let's watch Ayush's show, or let's switch on Netflix on Bad Boy Billionaires, and I was wearing the same shirt on that show, I will run into another room or put it on mute. I will only watch it to critically analyze it, have my iPad open, take down notes saying these were the mistakes made. I am constantly panicking watching myself. And everyone says it's a perfect job, but I find 10 flaws in it. So this is a flaw. It's not something which is very good. It's being a perfectionist is not a good thing. I've learned over years. And also you need to realize that often YouTube and all have taught you that all this hygiene that we do on television is maybe not needed. And you don't need to look your best. You don't need to sound your best. You can see some of the creators, they don't look like Hollywood stars, but they are the most relatable and the most genuine often. And very often people who look like the boy next door or sound like the girl next door. And they make an empire, so to speak, of what they do. So I think that it's good to have the training that I did. It's good to build on that confidence. But now in 2022, or for the past 4 or 5 years, there have been avenues open to you guys which can build on it. You're 18. When I was 18, Ayush, that was my national TV debut. Yes, I'd done radio. Yes, I'd done small parts and I'd done voiceovers and songs. But me to be in front of a TV screen, I was doing a show. I came on as a young dude trying to review a bunch of cars on a leading show in the country. And I was not, and by then I realized that my training had worked because I was not even, the question of being underconfident never came in my mind. And it never came to my mind. So when I did that show, and everyone said, oh, wow. And I didn't realize what I'd done. And we used to have Facebook as our primary means of communication then. Now, I think no one uses Facebook as much. We used to write on each other's Facebook wall, so to speak. And I had like at least 50 or 100 notifications saying, hey, dude, we saw you on the show. And you realize that TV was so important then. And now you could make a great reel tonight, hopefully. And everyone in Goa and Mumbai will be talking about a crazy reel that you made. Technology has changed things. It has democratized it. And that's why I feel like I am a student of technology. So, in terms of all these learnings, they all come from asking the questions. And largely, human beings, all of us, complicate things so much, Ayush, by putting 100 layers and 50 shades and whatnot. But largely, technology teaches you binary logic. 1 or 0, true or false. And that's what's fascinating, right? Life's so simple. We just tend to complicate it.
Wow. Okay, I had a few points again to add. So one of the ways which I built, like you spoke about confidence, your dad helped you build that. For me, it was a very similar thing. So firstly, I'm very lucky. I feel I was actually, I don't know how it makes sense or not to some people, but I was born an extrovert. So I was always talkative. I could always communicate and be open to everyone. But, there was still a sense of nervousness when you're facing new people and meeting new people. So what my dad and my elder sister, I have an elder sister, what they used to do is whenever I would go at a restaurant or somewhere, they would make me order. So basically what that happens is I'm already nervous. Now they're pushing me to give the order. Otherwise, they're like, if you want to have this, you order it yourself. And 1 or 2 times what happened was I wanted to have a milkshake. I wanted to have ice cream. I would be like, no, it's okay. I don't want to order and all that stuff. And they never ordered for me. And then once I started ordering, because one day I was like very fed up. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll order it by myself. And that's when slowly my confidence started building up because now I was talking to people and interacting with people. And I realized that it wasn't so hard as it was in my mind. So it was a completely different scenario. It was very easy. You just have to tell them what you want. You just have to express it and it will work out for you. It will work in your favor or it won't. There are only 2 options for that. So that is how I feel one of the ways which I built my confidence.
Absolutely.
Secondly, you won't believe I've actually done this. I was at a McDonald's once waiting for my order. There was no one else there. I mean, there was like no one else from my family there. I was alone. And then there were other people having their meals and all. And I opened my phone. I opened to my YouTube channel and I walked up to 3 people and I told them that, hi, I record podcasts. If you don't mind, could you please check it out and subscribe? And just by asking, you won't believe all three of them subscribed. I just asked,
Wow.
nothing else. So
Wow.
I feel these smaller exercises was something that helped
Yes.
me do that. Secondly, I
Brilliant.
can relate to your story of not wanting your family to watch your content, because I've always had that. Whenever I put out podcasts, I have my father always tell me this: you're slouching, your back is not proper, you've not done the lighting properly, your voice is not proper, it's sounding very bad, and all that stuff. So that's something which I've always found really sad. So I don't like them watching it. And yet my parents will watch the whole podcast. My mother watches my whole podcast every time, and I tell her not to, but it still happens. Or I might have said something which I don't want them to know about, but it still happens. So yeah, I relate to that a lot, I feel.
I do. And now I cross-relate to that with you as well, because the slouching bit, and I had this problem when I was younger, it's funny posture. Then on TV, they made you sit straight. And how far you're sitting from the mic. Is your voice being modulated? Are you speaking from the belly? All of these things were things that we used to be worried about. But over time, you realize that they were right. And largely, I think our elders are right about most things. And it's amazing that, look, there was the other approach. And hats off to parents like yours as well and mine, that the other approach would be like, the typical approach. I keep seeing reels and memes on it. Oh, this is our child. Let him do what he has to. Oh, he's amazing. But the whole point is that they are, especially in lockdowns and the times that you're at home, they are your circle of everything. You're with your family. So if they're just going to put you up on a pedestal, great, sometimes it's needed. But largely, if they can critically analyze and constructively criticize you, it won't hurt you as much. It'll make you, it'll cleanse you. It'll make you a better person. So it's like all our lives, they've been teaching us stuff. So it's better that they teach it to us than some troll on social media who passes the same comment. So I think that's a safe spot. So it's a good place to be, and hats off to them.
Yeah, it's like Gary Vee says, there are no 8th place trophies.
Sorry?
It's like Gary Vee says it. Gary Vee always says there are no 8th place trophies or participating trophies.
It's true. That's true. That's a silly thing that I don't know, a lot of our schools have taught us. It's good, always participate. But that doesn't mean that after you participated, you sit down and you're like, hey, let's just chill. No, you could come 8th place, but then next time come 7th or 6th, and then aim for the top 3, top 4, right? Otherwise, where are we improving? I just think you wake up every morning, Ayush, and this is cliched again, but just don't worry about what people said. Don't worry about how your content looked or which business deal you're cracking. Take a deep breath, do what you love, work on yourself, and try to be a better version of yourself than you were the previous day. Professionally, personally, mentally, physically, everything. It works with your workouts. It works with your mindset. It works with dealing with people. It works with cracking big things. It works with confidence. It just works that way. You can hear everyone. Listen to yourself. Filter out all the noise and the things that matter. And you are far too sharp for your age, because when I was your age, even till today, when I'm on shows, people talk like me. I'm usually the one who puts people in the hot seat. And often I digress. And I have to take notes. And a lot of us have to take notes. You've not taken a single note, but you remember everything from my answers. So you should build on that. And that's a great trait to have.
Thank you so much. Okay, I wanted to come to the most exciting aspect of the podcast, which is the metaverse. So you've been covering tech for so long. So what are your thoughts on this? How's it going to be? Just tell me everything you know about it.
Okay, I will place my glass of water down and tell you about it. The metaverse is part of a larger plan, which if we ignore right now, and I'm saying this without thinking this through, then we'd be foolish to ignore it. Because it's no longer science, sci-fi. It's not a sci-fi movie. This is essentially not even the future. It's the present. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's already happening. The metaverse is this conversation moving into a virtual room where I can see every aspect of your virtual avatar. You can see mine. And if you like the painting in the back or something in my back, you can use a token and purchase it. Or I can make an NFT out of my set. the metaverse is part of something that they call Web 3.0. Web 3.0 is the future of the internet. And actually speaking, that is just one interpretation of how people want the internet to be. But basically, I'll explain it to you very quickly. Web 1.0 was when there were just web pages. From one place, you click on a link, it goes to another place, or you just read a page, right? And max to max email began out then. Then you had Web 2.0, which is what we're sort of living in right now, what we were living in for the past 10 years, where you have a Facebook and a Google who are taking your data and who are selling it to advertisers and becoming billion-dollar companies in the process. But then there's only so much you can do. And especially when companies like Apple come about and they say, you know what, we believe in privacy. And they also realize they'll be taking a big chunk out of Google and Facebook's fortunes by building on their privacy plank and saying, your phone tracks you. Well, this one won't. And we'll give you a setting by which you can decide how to turn that off. They're called identifiers. And, app trackers. And they have an option now, if you have an iPhone, anyone does, it's called Ask App Not to Track. A Google or an Android phone can't do that because that's their business model. If they stop, they give you the software for free. And nothing in life is free, right? So they would be tracking you endlessly. Apple says, we don't rely on your data. We will keep your data safe. We rely on selling iPhones. We rely on you tuning into Apple TV and Apple Music. So largely, this whole structure and system is about to change. And it's about to change using three things: the metaverse, NFTs, and crypto. Let's not call it cryptocurrency because there's so much of uncertainty about whether it will ever be a currency. But the concepts of crypto, blockchain, these are things we should focus on. They will create jobs that you and I cannot imagine. This work, it's strange that COVID happened and the pandemic happened and lockdowns happened. We think we're living each day. Let's be safe. Let's keep our families safe. Let's work from home. Let's study from home. For me, this time is your preparatory course for the metaverse, because the metaverse opens all these avenues up for you permanently. You could sit in Goa, I could sit in Mumbai, and we could be working in San Francisco tonight in the metaverse. You could be a musician. You could be doing this interview. We could be singing a song at the end of the Coachella concert, sitting in our respective locations. And understand, a big plank of that will be how connectivity improves. When 5G comes in, what 5G does as a technology, Ayush, is if there's a lag right now on this broadband or 4G, that's because the technology has its limitations. 5G comes in, 50, 100, 200 times the speed and no input lag, low latency. What that means is that if I do this and if you had Iron Man's arm connected on your arm and I did this, at the same time, your arm would move, right? Wherever you were on planet Earth, because we were connected on a 5G system. So I think all of that put together, just think about how crazy it is. Crypto, so you don't have to worry about banks, and you can still be rich. Hopefully there's some sort of taxation structure and we understand how it works in the coming days. Crypto on one end, NFTs to resolve ownership issues and to actually authentically own pieces of art, content, digital stuff. Then you obviously have the metaverse, where all of this is happening on 5G and maybe 6G networks in the coming days. The applications are immense. They're endless. There are applications in medicine, in logistics, in banking, in just social media, in gaming. Everything changes with that one term that you're talking about, the metaverse. And you could have Facebook's interpretation of it, but we realize that Microsoft is putting even more money into it. They just purchased Activision for $68 billion. There'll be a gaming aspect to it, which some people argue that, hey, the metaverse is already here. Who said that PUBG or Battlegrounds or Fortnite is not the metaverse? Tomorrow, if you and I were to meet on a game of Battle Royale, Call of Duty, we were randomly connected by the server. I never saw Ayush. You never saw this Ayush. You were called A123. I was called ABCD. And I was dressed up as a girl with purple hair. You were dressed up as a dude from China. And we met on a map in Battlegrounds. And we're both in that map, say Miramar. And we're hiding in the desert. and you turn your audio on, you're like, hey, bro, what's up? And I'll be like, how are you? I meet you there tomorrow. I meet you that day after. We've never met. This is our virtual avatars. We're killing people. I mean, shooting people in the game and picking up stuff. Tomorrow, if you're on my team, I'm resuscitating you with. Just think about it. It's already here. Since 2018, we've been doing just that. We've been preparing ourselves for the mindset of the metaverse. Add a VR headset to it, add better connectivity to it, add better games to it, add more social media to it, and a lot more money in it, and start living those experiences. And it's here already. So anyone who's building for it doesn't realize that it's here already. And that's what fascinates me. And if you have a follow-up question to that, I'll just add a very quick 20-second piece to it, which is people dismissed advent and evolutions in the world of technology every time it was happening. You know, in the 90s, our parents had pagers. You should ask your dad. And pagers, do you know what a pager is?
No, is it the telephone book where the numbers are?
No. So the telephone book came first. Mobiles came later. In between, there was a period of pagers, which in America, I think they call them beepers. So what it was a small Game Boy-like device with a green screen, which you plugged onto your belt. Okay. So if you wanted to reach out to me saying, Ayush, you have to come and join the PodX podcast, how would you do it? You didn't have any of these things. You had a phone. We didn't have mobiles. You had landline to landline. Ring, 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 right? How do you connect? So we used to call a number, which would be then a lady or an automated voice would ask saying, what's your message? You'd be like, can you message Ayush that he has to join my podcast in 10 minutes? So they'd be like, okay, like how Siri does it or how Alexa does it. That one would say, okay, your call would cut. They would type out a message through their systems and it would reach my pager, a beeper, which would just beep saying, message from Ayush, join my podcast in 15 minutes. I couldn't call back. I couldn't message back. But I knew that you were reaching out to me. You know, so later on, there was ways of messaging back. But I'm saying that was the technology where everyone thought they were happy with that. If we became complacent with that, we would have never been in this space where we are today with Zoom and 100 devices and IoT and AI and machine learning, quantum computing. What it essentially was that pager became a mobile phone. Now, mobile phones came as the Nokia 3210, 3310. It was, dumb phones, which we used to have buttons on. That became Blackberries. When Blackberries were there, people made fun of touchscreen phones. Now, all of us are breaking the bank for a touchscreen phone. Now, I'll tell you that the next 10 years, people are going to be breaking the bank for holograms or VR or AR. Now, AR already had an application. If you think of Pokemon Go with your generation, a lot of you all played Pokemon Go, right? You were chasing each other all over the city to catch a Pokemon based on largely the third camera or the augmented reality sensor. It was creating that augmented reality. These are small experiments, Ayush, in the larger game that is building about the metaverse, crypto, NFTs, AR, and VR. And the future is here.
Okay, I wanted to ask counter questions. Don't you find it scary? Because, okay, I might sound like one of those old uncles, but I am actually very scared of it, that it might just kill human connection at the end of the day. Because if I'm doing everything from the comfort of my home, if I'm not leaving my house, even if I'm going for a party, it's through my home. I don't find that idea very comforting. But I personally don't like that idea.
So that's you personally. I respect that, and I appreciate that thought. But is that also you and your friends also? This is a great learning for me. Your friends also feel the same way?
They aren't really into tech, so I don't get to discuss that much with them. Okay. But yeah, I personally
we must speak to more people your age because it's going to matter to you all as well, right? And even kids younger than you. I'll give you one more example. The fact that it is scary, I agree. But imagine this is the known. Imagine the fear of the unknown in 2019. Right? It's not that far away from where we are today. 2019, when I was traveling the country and the world for football and for my love of football, and you were perhaps in your 10th grade or 9th grade, tell me, did you ever think that you'd be attending school on Zoom. Tell
No.
me, did you ever think that you would have a podcast and you'd be purchasing this amazing mic, which lights up when you're on it? And did you ever think that you could reach out to me on Instagram and we'd be sitting here today? Right?
No.
That's how fast, Ayush, technology is moving. And it's scary to think then that this moment would have happened now. I don't want to go all interstellar on you, but it's crazy to think that this moment could have been envisioned then. But what technology is doing is it's only expediting the process. This is all human innovation. This is all normal stuff that was supposed to happen. The pager, the dumb phone, the landlines were supposed to become pagers. The pay phones were supposed to become pagers. The pagers were supposed to become dumb phones. The dumb phones were supposed to become Blackberries. And they were supposed to become iPhones. The metaverse is supposed to happen. So it's the fear of the known now, which you're talking about, which is true. But imagine the opportunities it opens up for so many of us. You know, I'll give you a very crazy concept. This guy approached me on the show from he ran this whole concept in the metaverse. And then I started looking at other stories from the metaverse. And I really want to do this. There's a couple in India who are getting married in the metaverse. And I really look up to that. You know, I think that's amazing because they realize that the pandemic, it's kind of tough to arrange a big wedding in this time. And they're getting married in the metaverse. And the couple, I think one of them lost one of their parents during the pandemic. So they've created a digital avatar of him so that they can take his blessings in the metaverse. I know it sounds crazy, but I know it's not real. But we could not, if the metaverse was not spoken about a few years ago, no one would ever even think like this. And the concept for that is that if you can live on with your digital avatars and your kids can benefit from that, I mean, that's the biggest fear anyone would have, right? I want to meet my grandparents. I would love to. It's like Harry Potter. It's exactly like Harry Potter. You know how they have those holograms in Harry Potter and he can open books and see moving images. Hey, we have GIFs, right? We have live photos now. I'm saying the human mind is just so fascinating that as scary as it is, and I would think that then there should be like wellness experts and psychologists who should sit down with you saying, hey, Ayush, you can do this podcast now, but please do a physical meetup later. The problem that will develop from it is you're spot on in terms of human connections will not stop, but they will change. And when I say they will change because people might be a lot more confident in these avatars and they won't worry about how their beard is looking or how their dark circles are looking or how their voice is sounding because everything might be too fake. But again, I will scare you with a little bit and anyone watching. If you're worried about how things like that would be, could you imagine a life without Instagram filters? 3 years ago, there were no filters. There were no lenses. Snapchat had stupid, silly ones. But now all of us, including you and I, use Brightside and Golden Bloom and, random glares on. We are already, my friend, living in the metaverse. It's just too rudimentary and elementary right now. And the fact that we're doing this podcast is also, honestly, I hate doing online interviews on my show. If this pandemic didn't exist, I would fly down to you wherever you are and do this interview. Because what happens in human connection when you meet, like the waiter you spoke to the first time, that is special. The energy you get out of doing a live show in front of 40,000 people in the Fatorda is special, right? So I think, yes, I would love for that to be the real way forward. But unfortunately, the next generations are going to already, the guys who are in their 5th and 6th standard will tell you, Ayush, really? You use Zoom? Oh, we use this product in the metaverse where we're always with each other. There'll be applications of law in the metaverse. There'll be, people talking about human rights already in the metaverse. You could be a billionaire and think about it. Maybe you won't be materialistic anymore. You could be a billionaire in NFTs and you could be sitting in a 1 BHK in a slum in Bombay. I'm just telling you how crazy concepts will become. and it's all set to happen. So prepare for it. Yes, I would say all of us should start as young people working towards building checks and balances, making sure everyone's mental and physical health is in place, and making sure that, you know, how books are looked down upon now and everyone likes using Kindles or watching a Netflix show. It's not like books are gone, right? There are people your age who still read books, and there are people like me who still read books. So let's just make sure that there's a place for books. There's a convenience for e-readers. And if you're bored, you can watch a Netflix show as well. So I'm just saying we should just create that system in the metaverse as well, and we'll be good. I think there's nothing to worry. And also realize that kids your age and younger than you should start understanding how our parents, our mentors are going to tell us what they learned. But what's coming is what we also haven't learned. So we should prepare in a way where you can use good concepts that our families and mentors and bosses have taught us, but start applying them in more innovative ways. That's what the next 20 years will be.
Okay, do we have like 5-10 minutes? I had like 2 counter questions.
Go for it.
Okay. So firstly, the question which you spoke about, we being interacting with people whom we've never met or people who've passed away, like the lady you said her father passed away and she'll be in the metaverse, he'll be giving his blessings and all. First question is, we know that it's not real, right? Even if that father is giving his blessings, it's not a mindset. It's not him really being there. It's just a computer generated AI that is speaking, analyzing the data or the way he's been in the past before. And on the basis of that, he's speaking in a certain way. Correct. And secondly, which is you spoke about, it's going to become normalized for everyone. But what if, I'm saying this, a toddler gets into school, he gets into school in the metaverse, and for the next 15 to 20 years, till his college education, or maybe he's even done with college, it can even be a possibility that he's never met any of his friends in real life, and he's been at his home the whole time. His whole education was done at home. His whole parties were done at home. He had dinner with friends. So he's having his own Maggie. Another friend is over there having their own noodles or whatever. They want to have some Chinese or Mexican or whatever. And they're all having their own stuff. They've never really met in person. Isn't that part really freaking you out a bit? Because the mental effect it would have on people.
It is. I have very close friends and my own niece who are 2 years old. But I'll tell you this. I told you, what was this pandemic? Let's hope it's over sometime soon. But this pandemic was a preparatory course for all the scary things you're talking about. Because all the kids born during the pandemic or just before it are described perfectly by you in the last 2 minutes. It's already happened. We can't take this. The formative years, the first 4 or 5 years of a kid have already gone in this. You know, my niece is always at home. She calls her school toy school, because what's real and what's not. You've never seen a 4D version of those kids. You've never seen a 3D version of them. So I'm saying, I know what you're saying. It's scary, but it's already happened. So now how do we fix that? And yes, I don't think it's healthy, because you and I grew up in a non-metaverse world. So we think it's unnatural. Human beings are fascinating individuals. I think, like, I'm a people's person like you, and I enjoy giving energy and taking energy from other people, amongst other people. I hate these lockdowns. I hate that I've been so introverted and in my house and so scared in the last few weeks and months. But the truth is that it's taught us so much. It's taught us that extroverts can be great introverts. Introverts miss being extroverts or a little more extroverted. And while it is a little scary with some of the things that you mentioned, the first bit that you actually spoke about, now I'll give you an example. This is just the first such story in the world of someone using Indian culture, technology, and trying their best to leverage it. Now I'm saying in the future, if we went to our parents right now, in the metaverse, if it existed as you and I, you look at it somewhere, I look at it somewhere, and we recorded them and the happiest moments with them in the metaverse, right? It's not a video. It is them literally there. Maybe later on, you can smell things as well, right? Smell is something they're working on. Smell technology has not mastered yet. A Japanese dude is trying to put four different flavors in a television, but I don't think everyone wants to keep licking the screen of a television at this point. So smell and flavor are things you've not gotten right yet. Technology is building on that. But I'm saying let's add that as a bonus. And if you could take your parents and grandparents in the most pleasant, your happiest memory, and keep it in the metaverse as an NFT that you own with under lock and key. When you turn 45 or 55, or you turn 80, and you want to see that or live that moment again for whatever reason, wouldn't that be fascinating? I mean, for me, I don't know, maybe I'm a technologist or a technology enthusiast. I find that fascinating because when I speak to my parents, they try to remember things that they did with their parents when they were alive. And it just sounds like a conversation. Like I tell people, my family are essentially refugees. They came from the northwest of what is now Pakistan. Right? So they're not from Mumbai. And we came during my parents and grandparents came during partition. So I always thought this, saying, while those grandparents of ours are still alive, there's still a generation who saw partition that's alive. And it is criminal by all of us if we don't record their experiences on our fancy iPhones that we buy for 1 lakh rupees. Like we are idiotic if we do not document those, because there's so many learnings. If they are gone, life is finite. If our parents are not, the grandparents who lived that are not there, then you just remember things and history contorts and confuses you in so many ways. I think it's imperative. It's essential that we record those experiences and learn from them. And building on that, they don't need to understand the metaverse, create their best avatars, and let them experience it as well. I'll give you a crazy use case. Think about what this means for disabled people. I know it's a smaller populations and it's a sad state of affairs currently because they don't get all the opportunities that you and I get, or differently abled people is a better way to put it. Look at what they can do in the metaverse. I mean, the opportunities are endless. So for everything in life, there are pros and there are cons. I'm just saying, if we start getting innovative right now, we might be able to build on the pros and avoid as many cons as possible. It's never perfect, but we can come as close to perfect if we use our minds a little more.
Okay, I think I will adjust to the idea of accepting it, but it's always going to be scary for me.
Agreed.
Okay, so do you have any last advice for anyone who's listening or watching this podcast?
Last advice. Okay, now any words of wisdom? Look, I would never give advice. Anyone who has, because I don't think I'm an expert at what I do. It's the truth. I believe that I am your classmate and you and I are in the same school. It doesn't matter how old I am, how young I am. But yes, I think when it comes to being confident, I'll give you advice because you're the only person who I'm talking to at this point, and you can give me advice. I can give you advice. And the advice that I'd give you is keep doing what you are doing, because I'm not just saying this because I'm on your podcast. I'm very impressed. Don't worry about views. Don't worry about what people say, what your friends say. Focus on being the best version of this, making the best version of this. Make this your own little dreamland in this crazy world, and listen to people who constructively criticize, who help you out, build your network, and keep hustling, because you'll realize that all the questions that you ask were only to get my practice to be translated into theory for you. It's always great, but these are just what you're doing is already a cut above the rest, which is to live that experience in your own unique way in practice. So your learnings will be unique throughout this process. Theory only gets you that far. And I think what you're doing is fantastic. So I expect everyone to get confident, create more content, come and reach out to me and join my show and teach me a thing or two as well. And always, I think be genuine, be relatable, be yourself. This is how I am when we spoke earlier. This is how I am on my show. If you watch it, and my show is on India Today, Tech Today, plug yourself whenever you can. But yeah, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Keep tuning into the PodX podcast with Ayush, even when Ayush Elavadi is not on it, because it's a great one. And yeah, good luck, man.
Awesome. This was amazing having you. I personally learned a lot. I will be linking all your handles down for the audience so that they can follow you, they can check out your content. And yeah, I would really love to have you in the future again.
For sure. Maybe the next time we do this, Ayush, it's Ayush meets Ayush in the metaverse.
Or in person. Let's hope it's in person.
Works either way, man. Good luck. Thank you. Take care and peace.